The boys are tight. They, through the training, they became a platoon. They really did. They support each other. The boys really hit a groove, and I wanted to keep not only their friendships. I would have liked to have explored those relationships and gotten to keep telling those stories. I'm crushed for the boys.
Before listening to today's exciting episode, I just want to introduce myself. It's Dr. Andrew Rimby. I am the host of the Ivory Tower Boiler Room, an arts and culture podcast. I'm so excited that you're listening or watching. Please make sure that you follow us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you're getting the podcast. Please review us. Please share the podcast. It really means a lot. The more exposure the podcast has, the more I can book exciting guests. There's a Patreon. Ad-free episodes are on the Patreon. I also release bonus content on there. I talk about our book club, which is free. We're discussing on February 1st, Wuthering Heights, in honor of the Emerald Fennel adaptation that's coming out. So if you want to join the book club, it's on Zoom. It's at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Just message me. I'll send you the Zoom link. Please make sure you're also following us on social media. We have a new TikTok account. It's Dr. Andrew Rimby. Long story short, I think TikTok could not handle the spicy queer male content that I was putting out there. So I had to create a new TikTok. I'm going to be extra careful now. Trust me. Also, Instagram, Facebook, Ivory Tower Boiler Room. I'll see you on there. And now, here's today's exciting episode. Hi, everyone. It's Dr. Andrew Rimby, and welcome back to the Ivory Tower Boiler Room. I am so excited. I've been so eager to talk with Greg Cope White, which, if you don't know, he is the mastermind behind the story Boots on Netflix, the TV show. But his book, the memoir, is called The Pink Marine, and it has the nice Netflix logo there that it's adapted into Boots. I also love this pink boot here. Nice pink and green. So if you don't know who Greg is, he's an author, film writer, television writer, an inveterate bon vivant. He's a former sergeant in the U.S. Marine Corps, and now he's here on the podcast. So welcome, Greg.
Thank you. Nice to be with you, Andrew. Doctor.
Well, that's okay. You don't have to call me doctor now,
Hey,
but
you
I
earned it.
appreciate the honorific. I mean,
You referred to me by my title. I want to refer to you by yours. You
well,
earned it.
thank you. So usually the podcasts, the behind the scenes, it doesn't come out right away. But for today, I wanted to get this episode out on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, just because I feel like there's so many connections between what you bring to bear in the different intersection narrative you do with the Pink Marine, like all the different men that you met through boot camp and beyond, and just how MLK Jr.'s history sometimes gets obscured, like that it gets used by certain political groups for reasons that usually are just showing that they're empathetic, but they're not really wanting to change the system of
Sure, I can, I
oppression.
can, I can definitely see that parallel. It's you're putting me in with some rare, precious air. He was such a venerable speaker and leader, and I loved everything that he stood for, and I love that I think he's more quotable than RuPaul, and RuPaul is hard to beat on quotes per minute. So the things that he left us with, tragically, his life was cut just too short, because I can only imagine the things that he would have done had he had the chance to even live to a longer period of time. But he left us with such great examples that I think the world will forever strive to live up to his ideals.
Yeah. Well, and the main difference between your memoir and the TV series is the time period. So, right, your boot camp experience starts in 1979.
Yes,
The
and
the
the show
TV
we
show 90s.
We put it up to 1990 because first off, I served at a time of peace. Thank goodness. There's not a Marine out there who isn't praying for peace while preparing for war. So, to lead into what we still hope, who knows, we get a second season from another streamer. That's always a possibility. It's a long shot, but so is writing a book and getting it made into a show. So I'm here for any long shot. The the other thing is, Don't Ask, Don't Tell was in 94. So we were hoping to have enough seasons to include that in our storytelling. But the good thing is Marine Corps boot camp doesn't change. It's the I wrote the book as a blueprint for the Hollywood executives that would come and want to make it into a show, because I realized that no one knows what that world looks like. And so I very carefully write in the book every single physical aspect of the rooms, the space, the uniforms, the attitudes, everything specifically to provide that blueprint. So luckily that doesn't change.
Yeah, well, so my cousin Alex, because I was showing him that clip where in the show, um, they're using I think it's a toothbrush. Are they using a toothbrush when they're scrubbing the toilet?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what we had often. We didn't have giant big scrub brushes. We had those too, but if they were mad at us, we would have to use the others.
Yeah, well, he said, so for those out there, if you don't know, Alex is my cousin who, well, actually, they're his brother's Aaron, and they both served in the special operation forces. And he said that mass punishment is constantly used for the first few weeks. Then things settle down a little as you mess up less and hold each other accountable. He says he doesn't remember scrubbing a toilet, but the Marines probably do. We had to clean our bathroom rooms, stairwells to a very high standard. So,
And we're like six standards above the Army. So unfortunately, we continue to get punished as a group up until the very last day. Although, to his point, yes, less so as a group, because you're beginning, as he said, to take responsibility, and then it does taper off. But for in the Marines, the incentive physical training doesn't stop. Graduation day, we were in our alpha uniforms, ready to march out, and still doing bends and thrusts. So it's you have to remember that, just like your cousin who served in the incredibly difficult special services and trained in that, we the Marine Corps has 13 weeks to bend you enough to where you will commit murder on command without question or hesitation. So 13 weeks is a short time.
no, that is. Yeah, 3 months and a week. And like what I was curious about is what's interesting is the social and civil like moments. Like when you're starting, you're in the late 70s. So like, you know, I was listening to MLK Jr.'s speech when he was like protesting Vietnam, and like a speech that I don't think gets talked about a lot, but he had a lot of feelings against foreign invasion and against any kind of American militaristic imperialist conquest that like exploited other people. And my question is, how much agency, like say someone is such a huge pacifist, and this is kind of how I weigh in, and I talked to my cousins about this a little, Greg, but how much can you weigh in with individuality? Like if you're a huge social civil rights activist, I would assume that's probably not that popular to talk about in boot camp, but
You can certainly talk about it. Look, like I said, we're all praying for peace. There's no
mhm.
reason that we want to just. There's people that get hard charging up about it. Look, the best examples are those of the Second World War. As soon as Pearl Harbor dropped, thousands of young men rushed to recruiting stations to sign up. It was and we saw the same thing again after 9/11. Again, thousands of young men and women from all over the country went and signed up and said, "How can I help?" So, obviously we don't want those situations to arise, but you're certainly welcome to share those. But there's a story in the book about the gas chamber, and then we dramatize it in the show in episode two, I think, at the gas chamber. Two or three, the confidence. I'm not sure. Two or three. I'm a little sketchy on that, but uh, and he was a conscientious objector. So we treated it a little differently in the show. We had him, sort of have a panic attack, but in the book, it was a conscientious objector, and he's in the gas chamber, and he's demanding to call a senator. He's now not wanting to do this. So you sing a song when you march in probably whatever branch of service you're in, which was this is what you asked for. So if you have agreed to enter a doctoral program, you agree to whatever that organization asks you to do. Look, I was raised Mormon. And so even though we didn't believe in the church by the time I was a teenager, my mother wanted to get her doctorate degree from Brigham Young University. So the time that we were living there, we had to live under the Mormon guidelines. And that's the agreement that we made. So to your point, we make an agreement with the organization. So if I have agreed to sign my name on an enlistment contract to protect the Constitution and be willing to sacrifice my life to do that, which would be in a violent situation, maybe, then I have to agree to do that. If you're not willing to do that and you know it at the time, then pick another lane.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you. And
Read the room is what I guess the best way
yeah,
to.
read the room. Exactly. Well, like I guess in any, in any organization, but
There could have
how
look,
do you, yeah,
there could have been things about where did you get your doctorate?
Stony Brook on Long Island.
Okay, so Stony Brook is pretty, you don't have to worry about things, but I know that, there are, I have friends that didn't choose Pepperdine, for instance, young friends when they started college because they didn't want to go to Bible study every morning. They didn't want that requirement. So they just went somewhere else. But those that are fine with it or embrace it, I have a niece at a Christian preparatory academy right now for high school. She's not Christian. She was uncomfortable in her initial interview, but she's there to take advantage of the wonderful educational opportunity, and she just steers clear of the rest and just does what she has to do in those aspects.
Yeah, you're
So
right.
you could say the same thing about the
The
military. Obviously,
the culture of an institution.
yeah. And again, since I didn't know what I was doing, since I accidentally joined the Marine Corps,
Yeah, please let everyone know there's certain words you heard and you instantly lit up.
I think this T-shirt said, yeah, all I heard, there's some swag on my website. All I heard was summer in camp. My best friend called and said he had been at the Air Force Academy and he was leaving to, I have no idea what I just did to
Oh,
my
you're good. You're good. It like auto
to
zoomed.
my
You're fine.
screen. But he called and said that he was going to resign from the Air Force Academy, but finish his military commitment out in the Marine Corps, like his father had been. His father was the highest ranking Marine that there is, and he wanted to honor his father. And so he said, "I'm going to Paris Island for the summer. I'm going to go to boot camp, and I'll be out in time for the fall semester." And all I heard was summer camp, and I thought, I love summer camp, and I love boots. Let's go. So neither one of us thought, oh shit, it's illegal to be gay. We didn't think about that until we got a little more down the road,
So, I definitely want to dive into, and you detail it a lot in your book, and I want everyone out there to get their hands on your book. But I was so excited to see that Norman Lear writes your foreword, David Hyde Pierce, Jane Lynch. I mean, it's like a who's who with your blurbs. And
They
I'm
were
kind
all
of curious.
so sweet.
Yeah. But like, I'm kind of curious, did your experience ever come up before in your TV film career?
I didn't dramatize anything that was produced. However, my first assignment working for Norman Lear, which, by the way, he's a World War II combat veteran. So he's one of the people that when the war broke out, he was, rushed down to sign up and serve his country. He flew 52 combat missions in Italy and killed a lot of Nazis, and he was really proud of it. And so we bonded over the military stories and our backgrounds, and he called me Sergeant, and that's kind of how the show started being developed. Another producer in the office, Rachel Davidson, heard him calling me Sergeant. She thought it was funny, like calling a big guy tiny, and he said, "No, he's actually a sergeant." So when I was hired there to work for him, before I was on a TV show for him, I wrote on. This is my third Norman Lear show to write for, which I can't even believe I get to say that. But the first thing he had me do, we had a film in development where Arnold Schwarzenegger was going to play the Tooth Fairy. It went on. we lost it. It went on and turned around to somebody else, and it was made with The Rock. But uh, during development, they weren't happy with his day job. So when I came on, and we talked for a while, Norman said, "You know what? Rewrite this script and give Arnold Schwarzenegger a day job as a Marine Corps drill instructor at Paris Island. And then at night, he's the Tooth Fairy." It worked. It was hilarious. Arnold loved it. And it really was the right thing. I didn't see the movie with The Rock, so I don't know if they kept that. I have no idea. But it was just to juxtapose those two worlds of acid and sweet.
That is that's funny. I mean, I know the film. I haven't seen the it
Oh, and
in
I
a long.
think the only other time I wrote a show on HBO called Dream On, and with Jeffrey Clarick, who's just a brilliant, brilliant comedy writer. And later he went on to write on Mad About You, and there was a he honored me real quickly in one of those episodes by there was a line where I think they found some letters. Helen Hunt and Paul Reiser found some letters behind their toilet from a veteran, and they were from me. He said, "Here's Sergeant Cope has written," so it was very funny.
Well, something I just really love about what happens in Boots is just the camaraderie of the actors. I mean, and like I would say Vera Farmiga, who I just love, but she's kind of in her outside bubble space.
She's amazing, and yeah, she's not in with the thing, but yeah, she is a treasure. My mom loves the her portrayal of her. I don't, my mom's as seen on TV. So I don't know that she's not just fast forwarding to the parts with her in it, but Vera did a great job honoring her. The boys, as you probably see on social media, are as close now as they were during filming. It was a unusual filming process. Remember, we were shut down during the writer's strike, so we filmed the first three episodes, then shut down and came back a year later. We all stayed in
Oh.
touch. I am from New Orleans, where we filmed the show and where the show was set, and I ride in a Mardi Gras parade in Bacchus. And so the year of the strike, Kieran, who plays Slovacek, was still in New Orleans. So I just invited him to come ride on the Mardi Gras float for us with us, and he had a blast. But the boys are tight. They through the training, they became a platoon. They really did. They support each other. They're all so wonderful, and just I that is truly the saddest part is that of the not having a season two or a guaranteed season two is that the boys really hit a groove, and I wanted to keep not only their friendships, and which their friendships will last forever, but I would have liked to have explored those relationships and gotten to keep telling those stories. I'm crushed for the boys.
It may be freezing here in the Northeast, but when I received my copy of the Gay and Lesbian Review, it warmed me up instantly. Their new issue is all about kink culture. Let me explain a little. I'm going to read what Jeremy C. Fox, the managing editor, has to say about this issue. He says this issue marks a bit of a departure for the Gay and Lesbian Review as we crack open the bedroom door to explore the practices and paraphilias that interest or obsess some LGBT people and the roots of their appeal. Several feature articles delve deeply into why certain kinks turn some of us on, and whether we can discern historical and aesthetic rationales behind these fixations. This magazine features articles such as The Power of the Foot. Oh, yeah. They're going there with foot kinks. Maplethorpe's Gift to America, Reclaiming the Sacred Dungeon. Tumblr was a gateway to kink, and Cruising with Boyd McDonnell. You definitely want to get your hands on the kink issue here. I have an exclusive promo code that those at the Gay and Lesbian Review have granted to you all. It is ITBR Choice. Enter it when you check out on the glreview.org, and you will get a free issue of the magazine. I hope you all enjoy your reading, and it'll definitely keep you nice and cozy. Well, and I don't want you to say anything that'll get you in trouble or like you don't want to share, but from what I've read, it sounds like, which my sympathy about everything that went down with Netflix. that it's really hard to sell or get season 2 picked up by another distributor because of contractual reasons.
It's hard. It's not impossible. Norman Lear got One Day at a Time away. They gave him three seasons on Netflix of his reboot of One Day at a Time, but same thing. He wasn't finished telling the story, so it wasn't easy. But he got it away from them and produced another season on, I don't remember, maybe
Okay.
CBS. So it was uh, uh, it's hard, but give us something hard.
It's not impossible. Yeah.
Nothing's impossible.
Yes.
But it takes a lot of views to get a second season, and Netflix makes a decision based on numbers that we don't have access to. So the at the end, I was just on the phone with another producer this morning, and we always were rehashing this all the time, and we said, look, at the end of the day, no matter what happens or what happened, we have a gorgeous show. I'm so proud of the show.
Mhm.
As the source, I couldn't be more proud of what my story opened up for. You mentioned at the beginning of the talk, the biggest difference is the time frame. Really, that's not the biggest difference. The biggest difference is that with the show, we got the chance to build out. All the cast is introduced in the book, except a few people. We changed all the names, but the we had the chance to build up hopes and dreams for those other characters in the ensemble, that camaraderie that you talked about, so
Mhm.
that Cameron Cope did care about his fellow recruit Nash wanting to, have political aspirations and go on to something bigger. He did care and then Nash did end up caring that Slovacek was facing prison. And so you do have the hopes and dreams that I didn't spend time on in the book because I didn't know them that well. My time in the book is really spent on talking about them and the spirit, and I kind of described them physically in the little bits that I had. But the book is really it's about me and Dale and our families, and then the drill. And that's the other thing in the show. We got to go behind the curtain and build out the hopes and dreams and lives of the drill instructors, which I definitely didn't have
Mm.
privy to that. I had a little bit of privy because I was the scribe, so I did see behind the closed door. But then there was another door that was closed past what I saw.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the scribe position. That I really love how Cameron, uh, the fictionalized version of you, does get that like peek behind the curtain. Like, was there anything specifically when you were the scribe that you learned that kind of blew your mind or kind of countered your perspective?
Some things, like you see in the show, there were some things on medical files that I had access to that people didn't need to know and didn't know. I also knew who had chosen boot camp over prison. And I got to assign Firewatch. That's a really valuable tool. It's also, as you know from the book and the show, by giving me and Cameron that extra job, it just makes it a little harder. You want to, when you're dramatizing something, you want to, the old adage is throw your character up a tree and then throw rocks at them. So, to make it harder, there were 70 guys in the platoon, 69 of them did not have an extra job. I was the only one with that extra job of the scribe. So I'm already trying to hide my sexuality and try to, keep my head down and navigate and figure out why this is not at all like summer camp. And so to have that extra job was just hard. So we were excited to be able to give that to Cameron too.
Yeah. Well, as a queer literary scholar, I don't think this, and I'm sure you've addressed this question before, Greg, but with all the male male romance, heated rivalry, which I hope Boots, I hoped Boots had caused buzz like heated rivalry. But something that I'm curious about is, do you think that the American public prioritizes sex in TV show content over like the harsh realities of a system? Or
No,
it's not that simple?
no, I don't think it's that simple. There's plenty of shows that we fall in love with that have nothing to do with sex. Hacks, The Bear. Well, Hacks has a little bit. Succession. All of those brilliant shows don't aren't that. But people are hungry for romance. The number one book market is romance and has been for a very long time. My literary agent for the book actually only now she switched from memoir to just romance. She only represents romance writers. So
Oh wow.
it's a big thing. Unfortunately, because of the nature of boot camp in the first season, the book takes place um, the same timeline as the first season, from the beginning of boot camp to graduation, both end. So there is no sex in boot camp, other than Rosie Palm and her five sisters. But um, the uh, the idea of that would have been the second season. So yes, we were having tons of romance and sex come up in other stories because then it's real. You're out in the fleet. I slept with my first Marine my first week out of boot camp. That became
Wow.
the Wilkinson story on the show, and I'll finish that in my next book.
Yes, yes. Tell everyone when is your next book coming out, Greg?
I'm hustling
Probably.
it. Yeah, I just got back in town last night from being out of the country for a month. So my other half is Canadian. So I'm trying to hustle. It picks up right where we left off. I already had the first section done last year, and there's two other sections, but the first section takes care of my all of my time in the Marines and the reason that I didn't re-enlist, which I'll save. And then but it is related to the Wilkinson story. And then it's a collection of short stories, really crazy cautionary tales, that's my brand. Um, uh, moving to New York when I got out of the Marines, and then moving to LA and beginning to write television and navigating that world up until the point where I finished the book and sold it as a show. So it's there's a very long answer to your question, but people were fascinated. I haven't seen Heat of Rivalry, by the way. Jason sent me a note, which was lovely. I have utmost respect for him. Um, but I haven't watched it yet. I've just been away, and there's no HBO in Canada. And so I'm thrilled for all of their success. Of course, we wanted that. I can't help but watch Golden Globes and Actor Awards and everything else and see those boys on it, and our boys should be on there because they work their ass off, and they're just damn good looking people. And so enthusiastic and ready for all of this. So I hope that if we only have the one season, I really hope that every one of our spectacular cast gets to preen on this and use it as their headline for a long time and let that open doors for them, because it's a great show and they all did a
Yes.
great job.
Well, it is an incredible show. Like rewatching it, every beat that happens in every episode, like the storylines, the just what Miles does with the acting arc is so well done. And that's where all is not lost in queer TV because this was an incredible year for queer TV. I mean, Boots overcompensating,
But it
heated
was
rivalry.
hilarious, and
I
look,
know.
I'll tell you, Heartstopper got it right, and that was whatever it was 4 or 5 years ago when it came out, and so that was really, there was some nice shoulders for everybody to stand on, because Heartstopper gave us the first chance to really see a gay rom-com or a gay romantic comedy
Mhm.
done really well, that coming of age thing. So, people ask me why it took so long for my book to be made into a show since we started shopping it around in 2016. As soon as the book came out, part of it was COVID, but we sold the show during COVID. So, and then the writer's strike hit. But so really the show was only in development for 4 years, but which isn't a long period of time. But I don't know that the opportunity was there to greenlight this show if it hadn't have been for fellow travelers and Heartstoppers and other things,
Yes.
showing people that these are characters that the world is ready to invest in.
Yeah. Are there any analogies that people send talk about with you um that either amuse you or you can see why they're making that analogy with I don't know, Brokeback Mountain for example, or any other queer films or TV shows that they kind of try to cluster Boots
I
with.
haven't seen a smash up of comps like that. My very favorite thing in the world is people that respond to my things on Instagram or somewhere else in the speaking like a character. Sir, this recruit requests a second season, sir. Sir, this recruit requests a signed copy of your book, sir. That just makes me so happy that they and these are women and men, and it's not just. I had an email from a guy. The show hadn't been out for a few days, and this man had to go online, find my website, find on my website how to contact me, fill out a form, and send it. And it just said, "I'm a straight guy. I love you and your show." That was it. And I just thought, well,
Oh,
that's just about as good as it gets. People, we're a society that likes to judge, but we're also a society that likes to be entertained. So I love that so many people let judgment go and said, you know what, let's just watch the show about these great group of boys that are bonded together against the man. And there, wasn't better. We had two other Marines in the writers' room, and we had three full-time Marine military advisors on set every day, training the boys with us. So it was, you know, we like to say this is not Ryan Murphy's boot camp. No shade on Ryan. I love him. This is Norman Lear's boot camp. So it was really important. And you speak of camaraderie, and this show and the production is the best example of camaraderie there is. It started out with just me alone writing my book. And then by the end, we had 400 people enthusiastically, passionately crafting this show from and just the set was fantastic and collaborative. The writers' room was also very collaborative. So that the sense of camaraderie that I never thought I would find, that I did find in the military, has continued in other areas of my life. There's nothing better than the phrase when you're in the military of 70 boots hitting the pavement at once, forming one heartbeat. That's what camaraderie is. 70 boots, one heartbeat.
mm, yeah, that's so visceral. And the idea of brotherhood is something that is so, um, like when I think of the military, or I mean, yes, women are allowed. I want to make sure I address that, but not in 1979, right? Like there weren't
Yes,
women,
we
or
created
were
Captain
there?
Fajardo because what the Marines are famous for is pilot programs. So while it was a little early to have a female commanding officer, it can easily be a pilot program, and it did fit, and it was the perfect addition to the conflict that we needed with that story, because we got to explore sexism in the military. And there's a moment, and one of our other writers on the show, Megan Farrell, is an officer, so she's a Marine Corps captain. I think at one point she outranked her Marine husband. But the stories that she was able to add from her perspective, there are women that have to ask for their salute. You know,
Oh, wow.
you're you're an officer. I come to you, I'm just getting instantly salute. And there are male Marines that try to get away with it and try to look away. And Megan had this great technique of getting that salute. So we gave that to Fajardo too. I think that's in episode 5. I hope it made it. I'm not sure. We wrote it.
Well, not every summer we meet for a trip.
Vacation has officially begun on Netflix.
To best enjoy your trip, we suggest the following itinerary.
I say we just wing it.
Wing it.
See where the wind takes us.
From best-selling author Emily Henry
Are you guys like a thing?
Oh no,
we're
we're
just
just friends. Platonic travel companions.
comes your next favorite rom-com.
Who wants to go skinny dipping?
Alex does.
Vacation Alex!
I love it when you get weird.
People we meet on vacation, now playing on Netflix. Rated PG-13. May be inappropriate for children under 13.
Yeah. No, her interactions with Sergeant Sullivan, played by the incredible Max Parker. I just want to say that,
Okay.
who does not seem like he has such a great American accent.
He really does. That, as you know from the book, that part is an Italian American, a hairy-chested Italian guy. And we had those people come in, and then we had Max come in, and we're like, oh, come on. That it was Norman Lear that looked at the final auditions and came to Max and said, that's a star. So
Mm.
we are so lucky to have had him, and Max gave everything. This is a part that for Max and for Miles, these are parts that you just don't get to play often, to get that deep. And since I also am really blessed that, you know, another reason I don't mind waiting for the show to have taken so long, considering I could have written the story back in 1990 when I moved to Hollywood, with the story under my belt, but there was no market for it. But at the time, it wouldn't have happened. Now we actually were able to insist on out gay actors playing those parts. We even have a gay actor playing a straight part, Angus O'Brien.
Oh yes, wait, is he? Can
He's
you
a crazy
explain
Hick.
again for everyone who is? He's the one who's
Angus
like
is
off the
Hicks.
wall, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, very very
Um,
hyper and
but
crazed.
take a minute, and that's Angus's acting is so spectacular that as crazy as you see him in the first 7 episodes, pay attention to a moment in the 8th episode when the boys have just finished the crucible and they come out and they're filthy and dirty and exhausted. Just watch Angus's scene when the Eagle Globe and Anchor is placed in his hand. If you haven't watched it, you'll see it. If you have watched it, go back and you will understand what an actor's craft is. You'll see an actor practicing his craft when you watch Angus in that moment.
Good homework challenge for everyone, for myself included, Greg. So the idea of internalized homophobia, I mean, is something that rewatching, I really noticed how well Max is able to kind of get this competition going with Miles, like having Sergeant Sullivan playing off of Cameron and the way that they're like, is it because Sergeant Sullivan can't be out and open that he kind of like he sees himself in Cameron? So it's like, I'm gonna put him through the ringer because I can't express myself openly, so I'm going to like, project these feelings into this interaction.
Yes, partly, but mostly what he's doing is he's seeing this boy who's so hungry and so eager to matter and to be, and he knows what he's up against. He knows what's out there, and he knows the things that he's going to face, and he's trying to prepare him in the best way possible. We're all winging everything we do. I'm winging this conversation. I know you've got notes, but so we're all just winging it, and I don't. And if you look in the book, that character with me, Santoro with me, I don't know why he took a special interest in me. I don't know, but we got to explore that in the show. We got to answer that why question in the show. But in the book, I really appreciated at the end the challenges that he put me through. But at the time, I was like, get off my dick. Why was he so on me and really needling everything I did? And it was because he wanted to, I really believe he was trying to protect me.
Yeah. And like Cameron, he finds unexpected friendships, which I think is fascinating. But he also has incredible tension, with Ray, with Slovacek, and I'm assuming that is like, it just is so grounded in reality. Like, I know from your memoir it is, but also there's so many ups and downs and razzing and name calling, but then eventually the person who name calls you might become your best friend in a few years or even in a few weeks.
Absolutely. Look, Slovacek scared the shit out of me. And the moment we gave it to Cameron and Angus Hicks, but it was Slovacek in the book that held the razor up to my throat, and said, "Who taught you to shave?" And my answer, nobody, because I didn't have a father like Cameron. But the idea of going into this world for Cameron, where he's already bullied and leaving that bullied world, he literally went out of the frying pan into the fire. And thank God he had Ray. Just in case anybody is asked or wondering, Ray, Dale in real life, and I are still best friends. It's well documented. We see each other or talk to each other every day. I think we just celebrated last August, maybe 52 years of best friendship. That's
incredible.
But we met as you see in the fourth episode of the show, third episode of the show, we met at school, and then that first day of school, and then we just never were separated. So, I mean, we're separated a lot. I moved around. I went to different schools, pulled away. He went to the Air Force Academy. I moved to New York, all that stuff. We had plenty of time, but we all came. He lives here in Southern California too. He is a doctor. There's a line that we had in the show, unfortunately, that we didn't have space to, that we filmed in space to use, but Cameron's asking him what his plan is for boot camp. And Ray says, well, they're paid for my medical school. I'll become an anesthesiologist, have 3 kids, get a hot wife. And that's because Dale became an anesthesiologist. He has 3 kids. He has a hot wife.
Well,
And Dale was there for a lot of the filming, by the way.
Oh, wow. I hope, yeah, I'm sure there's so much, like, even footage that exists of like the behind the scenes. I know some of that's been released on YouTube.
Yes, I
Like
know.
with
I have a lot of
Netflix.
photos I haven't shared. You know, the boys went through so much training. I remember that when they were filming that last segment, the Crucible, we were getting ready to march out, and we're in New Orleans in August in the humidity, and the boys are dying. Now, granted, Miles has talked about this a lot. At the end of the day, you know, they got to go to their air-conditioned trailers. We didn't, but there were many times they were just sweltering with the weight of the pack and the metal helmet and the whole uniform and the boots, and you're in mud, and the humidity in New Orleans is next level. And I would just walk up to them as we would roll onto the set and say, use this. This is what it is. So, you know, the things that they went through were real. The obstacle course was built to scale. It was an exact replica of a Marine Corps obstacle course. The confidence course, same thing. You know, that Tower of Terror. We really built that, and the Stairway to Heaven, and our squad bay, our set designer, the level of detail. And again, this is all about camaraderie and all about the people coming together to want to make this story the best it could be. Our set designer went to Paris Island and had a tour, and by the time she left, they had tucked a set of blueprints under her arm. So she came back to New Orleans, and on the biggest sound stage there is, she recreated Dale and I's exact squad bay to every detail that I detail in the book. All of those things I said. So every plug, every light switch, every paint color, everything. And then we placed Cameron and Ray in the squad bay exactly where Dale and I were placed.
Now that the spring semester is here, I am so excited to let you all know about a publisher, an independent publisher that's celebrating 40 years of great books called Broadview Press. I love Broadview Press. I have so many of their editions of classic literature like Wuthering Heights, which is coming out soon, and it's our book club choice. And they have so many academic books for instructors and for students and the general public. So I've had so many exciting guests on, from guests talking about The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, guests talking about vampire literature, horror literature. I'm looking at you, Jeffrey Andrew Weinstock. I cannot wait because I have 2 exciting guests coming on soon. And I've recorded their episode, so I know that it's going to be such an interesting conversation. The first is Rachel Tucholsky, who wrote a book called Writing on Fire, a fierce yet friendly guide to writing humanities essays in college. I've used excerpts of it for my Writing 2 course at Montclair. It has gone over so well. I just love what Rachel does. And we get into this in our episode about this metaphor about writing on fire, like how that's a great way to think about free flowing, brainstorming, creative ideas, and getting into that flow state, which, as Rachel explains, happens not just in writing, but in many other avenues. And then the other guest that I have on is David Starkey, who wrote a book called Academic Writing Now, a brief guide for busy students. It is designed to cover the basics of a college writing course in a concise, student-friendly format. Each chapter concentrates on a crucial element of composing an academic essay and is capable of being read in a single sitting, which, you know, for a generation, myself included, I think all of us now, just consumed by digital media or just this attention grabbing technology, reading in a single sitting is definitely a plus. So head to Broadview Press, use the promo code Ivory Tower, and you'll get 20% off every single book in their collection. There's also a really cool digital library collection they have. So if you're a librarian, take a look at that. Message me. If you're a librarian, I'd be happy to show you what that new collection looks like. And I hope you all enjoy your reading. Wow. Well, this is my personal opinion. This isn't Greg's, right? I want to make that clear. But I feel like we're also in a culture right now that can be very impatient, very part of the trends, like everyone wants everything at once. And there's nothing wrong with, you know, a reflective period. And, a few years from now, like everyone starts saying, wait, that Boots TV show that I watched, where's the next season? Or where's the film version? And like continuing the narrative, even as a film, like what they did with Looking. Or, I mean, that's happened with Sex and the City, did that with their film versions.
They own the book, they own the story. They can do whatever. I think I forget the number of years I have before I take it back. So there's also been some interest in a Broadway production, and I just don't have the rights back to do that. But the no, it's whatever they want to do with it. We're here for it. We had such a great time writing the show, producing the show, that we're all heartbroken that we don't continue doing that.
Yeah. Well, because, yeah, like you said, you all form such camaraderie and there's just such a connection.
And there's so many stories to tell. The characters that you fell in love with, imagine where they're going to go in combat, which is where we were headed for the second season. So, you have, we're in the Middle East, is who's Cameron going to fall in love with? What's going to happen with him and Ray? How will they find each other in service? Are they in different units? Who's drunk the Kool-Aid? Is Nash an officer now? What are these people? Where did they go? Are we ever going to see Sullivan again?
Yeah. Are we ever going to see Sullivan with his former lover?
Yeah.
I found those scenes very captivating. And that was an excellent actor as well. I'm sorry, I forget his name right now.
Sachin is great.
Yeah.
Sachin Bhatt. And he's that was a powerful story for them to tell, because that moment, those moments that they had, represented every single military member who was kicked out under Don't Ask, Don't Tell. We were trying to honor those sacrifices and those heinous I'm trying to separations from the military.
Yeah.
Discharges.
Yeah. And I also find what happens if someone falls in love with a civilian overseas? Has that ever happened?
It happens.
I mean, it has
every day.
happened, but
yeah, Dale's mother, Ray's mother in the show was from Korea. Dale's mother's Japanese. We fell in love with Liam O, that actor that plays Ray, who happens to be Korean, not Japanese like Dale. It happens all the time. There's Marines are stationed in the Philippines and in Japan, in Germany. Lots of Army people are in Germany, so it's quite common to find a wife. Remember, we're anywhere from 18 to 30 usually, and those are the years where you are finding your life partner. And if you're stationed in the Philippines for 6 years, there's a good chance you're gonna have a chance to fall in love.
Yeah. So if you'll just go on this little journey with me, Greg,
Take me
of
there.
a hypothetical. This is the fanfic romance brain, but what would happen if, in a Ryan Murphy series, we could see this happen. I mean, we've seen this with the Menendez brothers and Ed Gein, but what would happen if, say, Cameron started jerking off in the shower and a guy joined him, but then a sergeant saw them? I'm assuming that they would be. That doesn't fly.
Are they jerking each other off, or are they jerking themselves off?
No, each other off.
They're going to have to address that situation, And look, there's a world where the sergeant joins in.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, there is like even I feel how many of you have said, "Oh, I was waiting for when Sergeant Sullivan and Cameron something was going to happen in the office." Like,
Look, I
did
felt that
anyone
tension
go
too.
there?
I
Yeah.
felt that tension too with Centauri. He was the sexiest man I had ever seen. So, the sexual tension is real. And look, we're 18 years old. Our actors are young as well. Our characters are 18 too. So it's the hormones aren't just screaming. They're absolutely yelling at each other. So absolutely, you don't know what's going to happen. And plus, it's a boiler room situation. It's tight, tight, tight pressure cooker that these guys are in, and pressure cookers like to let off some steam.
Yeah, as we are here right now. With intelligence as well. But yeah, I think like you're saying though, it wasn't something like how did homophobia come up during your boot camp experience? Like was it through slurs? Was it through put downs, or was it actually like anything physically happening?
I say in the book, they call us faggot 1,000 times a day, and every time, and they call us maggot, and every time they said faggot, I heard my name, and I was so hyper aware of it. But they're just that slur means nothing to me anymore. I'm sorry if I offended anybody by
No.
saying that out
Oh,
loud. I
well,
know it's an
yeah.
awful word, but the power was removed. Its power on me was removed in boot camp. Um, the 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 idea of hate is easily detected. The smell of hate is easily detected. I'm sure I talk about in the book a lot that there were many people as I was getting, because I started getting good in boot camp, as I was getting an award or achieving something. I'm sure that there were looks, and we love to reduce someone to something that may be hurtful. So it's easy to say, "Oh, I don't like that guy getting promoted because I don't think that he shoots as well as I do." But it's a lot easier to say, "I don't like that guy getting promoted. I think he's a faggot."
It's a
You're looking for the
deflection.
Yeah, you're looking for a way to deflect and try to feel less pain for yourself by causing a little pain to others. So look, I've been bullied and slurred and called the worst things and thought probably worse my entire life. But again, just like we learned in Wicked, you have no power here. The that I wrote the book when the stories of bullying became very prevalent and young kids were choosing to end their lives rather than hold on for one more day. And I wanted to give an example in great detail of how you can be in the most brutal world in our society, yelled at and screamed and bullied by the toughest men in the world, and you can hold on for one more day.
Yeah. Well, and we feel that on every page. I mean, it truly is, and it's not done in like you're never beating the reader over the head with um a lesson. Like,
No,
you're not doing like
I am a comedy writer, so
yes.
I did try to give you a spoonful of sugar to make the medicine go down with by wrapping those very serious moments in comedy. But at the end of the day, what you're seeing whether it's the book or the show, you're seeing, especially with Cameron and Max, with Cameron and Sergeant Sullivan, you're seeing them very aware of the hate and the homophobia, and really wanting to just say, wait a second, I'm a good person here, just here to do my job. That's it. I didn't join the Marine Corps looking for a boyfriend. I joined the Marine Corps to change my life
Yeah.
and to find my place in the masculine world. So yeah, I dated, and they're amazing. I had great relationships. You'll read about that in the second book. But the idea was to do my job like everybody else, and that's all
Yeah.
I wanted to
You
do.
weren't
And that's
there
all I
for a
wanted to do.
Playgirl photo shoot.
No, it's not. I was there to do my job.
Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't seem like, there isn't really a fantasy element going on in boot camp, as we clearly see in the show.
No, no, we wanted the scene where your cousin mentioned the toothbrushes. The scene where Cameron follows Jones into the shower because he thinks something's going to happen, and then it's very hilarious what happens. That's from the book when someone peed in the shower, and we had to go and scrub the shower with toothbrushes and bleach. And I really thought we were all going to die of chemical inhalation because you're in that little shower
Yeah.
just scrubbing for hours and hours and hours because Sergeant Santoro Sullivan in the show came in and detected that smell of pee. And I don't know why it was a private arty in the book. I don't know why the hell he did that in the first place. But we found that's a great thing about taking source material and crafting it into a show. The conflict that we were able to do by having that interaction between Jones and Cameron gave us a million miles. So the seed that was planted in the book with the real story became such a gorgeous, hilariously memorable moment.
Yeah. Well, and also I thought it was so vulnerable when you explore what happens when someone has a partner at home and they're just um so full of excitement and optimism to go back to that partner, but oh my God, the partner's cheated on them. Like it, sadly, I can see that really happening in everyday life, like in the
Oh,
military.
absolutely. It's, the songs we sing, the Jody calls, where it says Jody's got your girl and gone, Jody's the guy back home. And no, it's true. Look, it's the when the cat's away, the mice will play kind of thing. So that was crushing for, and again, we took my bunkie who was obsessed with his wife and never should have enlisted and, masturbated over her letters every single night. Just all of that. And he was high shooter in the range. We took that with Ochoa's character and we're able to take it to that tragic place and show what that's like. And that's very real to call home and have somebody else answer.
Yeah. Well, how did, you know, I know this is a little crude, but how did those of you in boot camp masturbate? And was it just an open secret? Like, oh, we know what so and so's doing. We're gonna give him his space.
It just depended where you did it. There were guys
Oh,
that were comfortable enough to just do it in their bed, in their rack. And then there were other guys that would, have to just go do it kind of. We didn't have any stalls in the toilet room, so you might find a moment alone or where there wasn't much of you. But yeah, you just found a quiet place. It really depended on what you were comfortable with.
okay. Yeah. So everyone knew what was going on. Like,
The beds are quite squeaky.
yeah. Yeah. Well, and as we
There were
near our
times, and I think
end,
it's
yeah,
it's
no,
in the
go
book. There
ahead.
were times where you'd hear it, just the squeaks were going all over the place.
Someone was really into it. They were
Well,
they
just
were
so many
really
different. Yeah, there might have been
oh
20 people
yeah,
at the same
so
time.
many different guys were indulging.
I think I say in the book that Howell in the show, Howell in the book yelled out, recruits go to sleep, quit choking your chickens, and we all kind of froze because so many were actually choking their chickens at that minute. How do you
Well,
see?
and something that I want to address, and this has gone so quickly. I've just so appreciate you being so open and just everything that you've brought into the world with your story.
You're very welcome. Thank you for your interest, and you're
Well,
lovely to talk to.
well, thank you, Greg. And is I don't want to mention it, but I feel like I have to, which is Pete Hegseth. And how do you weigh in with why
There's
do you
been
feel he felt the need to have to demean in any way this
he first
incredible
off, he
story?
didn't. He didn't. Kinsley, a spokesperson, did. She answered a question from Entertainment Weekly, and if you look at her answer, it's actually what we do in the show. So I don't know it verbatim. So I hope they from it sounds like they didn't watch the show, but I hope they enjoyed it because it's a good show. And at the end of the day, both my book and the show are very well known to be love letters to the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps changed my life. And yeah, there were parts that were awful. And yes, I watched dear friends and worried every single day that I was going to get kicked out, that this wonderful summer camp that I was finally navigating and finally figuring out was going to end for me at any minute. And as I watched that end for people, it was a witch hunt. So we show the Marine Corps for its scars, but we also show the pride. It's a wonderful organization that changed my life, and I certainly wanted to celebrate it. So they should be very proud.
Yeah, you honor and value the Marine Corps, but you also tell the authentic truth about your experience, which if there's a problem
look,
with that, then that's just a reflection on what's happening in society.
what did you write your dissertation on?
Uh, Walt Whitman and Oscar Wilde's queer poetics.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
they didn't get along, right?
Yeah, they had some mentorship friction, but yes.
So there you go. Same thing. They both conscribed to each other's worlds.
Exactly. Yeah.
There you go.
Like sometimes the people we're closest to, we also, like family, you have friction just because
Oh,
it's an up and a down.
I feel so awful because my boyfriend, who's not in the entertainment business, but should be because he's a wonderful storyteller, he reads everything that I write before it gets sent out, and he gives me notes. And sometimes with him, it's easier to say, "What are you talking about? You got to know," And then if I get that same note from a producer, I'm like, "Well, of course you're right," So it's just yes, I hate that I'm short with him when he's giving me such lovely notes. It's just because we're so close.
Yeah. Well, and have you heard from those who, you said there were Marines on set, like, what is the pulse like now for being openly gay in the Marine Corps?
Who gives a shit? Who gives a shit? We're there to do a job. Do you have my back? Do I have your back? That's end of story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look, let me just end my part of the talk. I'm not wrapping this up. I'm not wrapping up your show.
No.
But let me just, before we do end, let me just let you know that here's how I feel about all of this. We're an all volunteer military. We ask young people from every walk of life to be willing to sign a contract and possibly lose their life to protect our Constitution. Anybody willing to do that and wanting to do that that's qualified physically should not just be allowed. They should be embraced and celebrated every fucking day.
Yeah.
I want our trans brothers and sisters back in. There's a story now. They're talking about ending, the possibility for HIV positive recruits to enter boot camp. They're not looking at undetectability, all that stuff. So look, whatever it is, you wanna serve your country. By God, let me congratulate you.
Yeah, that's what I don't understand is, wouldn't you want anyone who wants to serve their country to be welcomed with open arms? Like, why continue to restrict the groups who can come into the military?
Yeah. So it's short-sighted. I hope that if anything, by showing such a beautiful, respectful look at the Marine Corps, I hope that we've changed some minds.
Yeah, well, you have. And that's what I was going to say is, like, have you heard from any of those who either are in the military, not just the Marine Corps, but any branch, or those who are vets, like what the show has meant to them?
All the time, straight, gay, whatever. Of course, I get tons of messages from people that were kicked out or served during that time. Thank you for telling our story. But I also get people that are who gives a fuck? I served with this person, I served with that person. It's all about doing your job. So I am proud to say that I have not received one negative comment, one slur, one awful thing. They're out there. I'm sure there's people in those conversations, and I'm sure there's Reddit forums and all that. But I understand that the Marine Corps Boots Reddit forum was quite wonderful to read. I'll have to go find it. It was very positive.
Well, I think that's an amazing end note. So, Greg, how can everyone get their hands on The Pink Marine? How can they learn about, the new book that you're working on? And, how can they follow you as well?
Again, thank you for this conversation. I love and appreciate, I'm so thankful to you and anybody that spends a minute reading my book or watching the show. That's time with my story that I so appreciate. I know how precious time is. I have a website. My boy, you mentioned the boots on the cover. My boyfriend designed that cover. Isn't he
Ooh,
wonderful? And he
it
designed a
is
website.
wonderful.
If you haven't been on my
Yeah.
website, he built the most gorgeous website. It's pinkmarine.com. There's places on there if you want a signed copy of the book, you can order one. There's merchandise on there. The money goes to Wounded Warrior Projects and the Veterans Writing Project for the Writers Guild. There's places, there's links to buy the book. I narrate the Audible book. And then social media is Eat Greg Eat. I try just right now I'm really just using Instagram. Twitter's just such a cesspool. I'm on there, but I'm not really doing anything but retweeting hateful things from crazy people.
Yeah. Well, and my advice is in the new year, or what I'm doing is less is more with social media. My
Yeah.
mental health has gotten much better.
And I'm also trying to get this second book out. So there is a place when you log on to my website. I think my boyfriend built it so a thing pops up saying put your name and email address,
Oh, nice.
and we'll let you know when the new book's out. So I didn't answer your question fully. What I'm trying to, my editor is ready to start on that first section when I get it to her. So hopefully, I'd love to have the book out by April or May, but who knows?
Well, I can't wait to read it, and I just so appreciate the story that, you know, we needed. Like a story that um not only is, of course, raw, authentic, and truthful, but also urgent and, provides an aspect of the military that hasn't been talked about a lot. So,
Thank you
that's
for
why
getting it.
Boots, I think, is an incredibly just well done TV show. One of the best in terms of its arc, its cast, its collaborative nature, the camaraderie. You can just feel an authentic camaraderie from the
I
screen.
I can't tell you how wonderful it is that that's your takeaway because that is everything that we wanted to accomplish. So in the Marines, we love to say mission accomplished, and I feel like I can say that with you. So again, you're wonderful to love the show and my story so much. You're wonderful to have this conversation and share this with your community, our community. So again, thank you for this.
Thank you, Greg. Well, happy 2026 and, you know, let's see. I'm sure Boots, there's going to be many more reverberations
I'm
throughout
here
the
for it.
years. Yes. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.